Hi everyone from Curry Senior Vitality. This is Josie with Community Tech Network, and today we've got a continuation of our three-part lesson on online news. So in this part, we're going to focus on fake news. And fake news basically refers to any news circulating that is not true or partially untrue. And you hear about it, of course, a lot in recent years, and it has become, I would say, a much more significant problem in recent years than it used to be. Fake news has always existed, of course, but one of the drawbacks of the internet is that it's really easy for anyone to share information, to share a story, to share an opinion. And so there's so much information available on the internet at our fingertips that it puts more responsibility on you as an individual to determine if something that you see online is true or false or somewhere in between. And one way of breaking down fake news is into misinformation or disinformation. And you can read a lot about this online, of course. Let's say misinformation versus disinformation. There's a bit of a difference between the two. So misinformation is false or inaccurate. So this could be someone made a mistake, information was reported inaccurately, generally not an intentional lie. Disinformation is deliberate. It's often malicious in nature. So it might be propaganda. It might be trying to spread fear or suspicion. So those are kind of the two general breakdowns of fake news. And also just to keep in mind too that some fake news is really, really obvious. It might be extreme, something really extreme, sensational, and very easy to recognize. Usually where fake news is more dangerous is when it's partially true, it's biased in a particular direction, or leaving out critical information to lead you to come to a specific conclusion. So generally when you're using the internet and getting information either from actual news sources or from other sources like random websites, social media, emails, or messages that acquaintances send you, you just have to be really critical about what you're receiving to try to decide, is this legitimate or not? Fortunately, there are a lot of organizations doing work on fact-checking and trying to prevent the spread of fake news, but unfortunately, the internet is super fast, so rumors and conspiracy theories and false information can spread extremely quickly. So even though people are trying to stop it, it's really hard to stop in time, especially with social media where a post might be shared and reshared and reshared. It can very quickly spread around the globe. But I did want to show you a couple of resources. Let's take a look at Snopes.com. This is a website that focuses on viral news stories and does research into the accuracy of the story. So we'll just give this a minute to load. Okay, the website does have quite a few ads, unfortunately. So just to take a look here, first off, there's certain tags there at the top related to topics that are trending right now. They also have a featured story. Let's take a look at this one here about Bruce Willis. So, Bruce Willis is not dead despite very sad news, Facebook death hoax. So, I had not heard about this before, but, and again, just try to ignore the ads, try not to be distracted by those. So usually this is how Snopes presents their stories. So they explain what the claim was. Film actor Bruce Willis died mid-November 2022. And then they research the story, they dig into it, and they give it a rating. So it might be false, it might be true, it might be misleading. So there are different ratings they can give to it. And they kind of have an explanation. So a Facebook post was being shared that claimed Bruce Willis had died. Here's actually a screenshot from that post itself. So if you are on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, be aware that that's often where these fake news stories really spread. So definitely make sure you're not getting your news only from Facebook. Also check other sources, because especially depending on who you're friends with on Facebook, you're going to see a very biased picture of the world. But yeah, that was the original post. So it had this photo, it had the dates, and as you can see here, it's showing the source of this article, dailyarabian24.com. I've never heard of that, so that's something to be aware of, that if you see something circulating online and you don't recognize the news source, you should not trust it, because, it'd be one thing if this was the New York Times or the Washington Post or some national or international reputable source, although they can make mistakes too, of course, but definitely something like this, I would be instantly suspicious of that. And they kind of go in depth about this. The false news was being passed around on a network of questionable websites. And these are some of the examples of the sites that were spreading this. gnnews7.com, fnews2.com. So all these websites I don't recognize the name of. So that's definitely a big red flag. Some of these websites may have been aiming to get users to install dangerous malware. So, so that's interesting. And I would say that's one reason that people spread fake news. Some sort of really sensational headline like this, especially if you're a fan of Bruce Willis, you're going to be tempted to immediately click on that post and read it, and then you'll be on their website and potentially vulnerable to things like that, like this pop-up that was probably spreading malware. So always be cautious. If you have a strong emotional reaction to a news to a news story, and you don't recognize the source, be very cautious of that. Okay, so let's take a look at some other examples on the Snopes website. Okay, did Disney file a patent for a roller coaster that jumps tracks? So scroll down past these ads. There's the claim. Disney filed a patent for a roller coaster that jumps the track. And the rating is it originated as satire. So that's also something to be aware of, is sometimes a person or an organization writes an article online intending it to be satire, but if it spreads, some people might understand that it's satire and others might think it's real. So just be aware of that too. And there are a lot of really great satire websites out there. One of the big ones is The Onion. Let's let this load. So this website is all satire. Ticketmaster opens new workhouse where Taylor Swift fans can labor to earn their Eras tickets. So most people hopefully would see these articles and recognize that they're being funny, but you never know. So that's always something to be aware of too. Not an intentional, misleading, malicious attack or anything, just satire that can be misconstrued. Let's take a look back at the Snopes site. They also have this section on, latest fact checks. Sometimes they'll analyze photos or videos that have been circulating. So let's take a look at this one. A video depicts a grandmother tearfully kneeling down before her grandson. Okay, so this one they're actually researching currently. And this has become a very serious thing in current events, that news and information can spread really, really quickly, and especially when it's something related to a war, or a serious health risk. You really want to be careful of how you respond to information before knowing whether it's verified or not. So, and also photos and videos can be edited. So just because there's a photo doesn't mean it's authentic. And same with video, actually. There's a technology now called deepfake, where you can take real existing video and doctor it up so you can make people look like they're saying something or look like they're doing something that they never did. So always be cautious of everything. So anyway, feel free to spend some time on this website, snopes.com. And also another piece of advice I have is, if you see a claim circulating online, look it up on a news website that you trust. If something really did happen, all the big national news agencies should be reporting on it. So that's kind of a way of checking it. Or also, you can also just do a Google search of fact check and whatever the topic is. So I see what's coming up here is The Crown, season 5. But for example, around political debates or speeches, generally you can find a fact check afterwards, where they researched everything a speaker or a politician said, and you can kind of see, okay, what's real, what's not. So to dig into this a little bit more, I looked up one of those websites where this Bruce Willis story had apparently been spreading. It's called news34zone.com. And sometimes in internet safety, we talk about the closed padlock, showing that a website is secure. So this is a secure website, but it doesn't mean it's legitimate. So here's their article. You'll see it's kind of odd. Looks more like a blog than any sort of official news website. And they even have a video that somebody created talking about Bruce Willis's final moments. So there's a lot of strange things you can find on the internet. Doesn't seem to be... So user 2 was the author here. If you compare that to... Let's just go to the New York Times as an example. But any reputable news source should have a lot more details. So let's just pick this first article. Should show clearly when it was posted. Always check again the web address, nytimes.com. That is the correct address. And imagine somewhere typically, authors are listed. And also, I think, let's see if I can. Okay, I can't on that one. Looks like I can tap here on this author's name and read a bit more about them. So that's a good thing to look out for too, that it's a real journalist. If an article doesn't have a source, it doesn't say who wrote it or when, it's generally pretty fishy. So yeah, this is a little bit about fake news. Just be aware of it, especially on social media. Try to get your news from a variety of sources. Definitely not just from your friends and family online. One last site I can show you that I like. Allsides. Yeah, allsides.com. The idea behind this website is they present stories and they have links to articles from different sources. Since pretty much all news sources are at least slightly leaning in one direction or another politically. So if you really want to get a full understanding of how an issue is being talked about, you can. So for example, this story about Nancy Pelosi, here's a link to an article from the right. So, and it shows the source. So Fox News is considered right-leaning. From the left, and this is CNN, and kind of from the center. So The Hill is considered more of a central, less biased either direction news source. So if you really wanted to dig in, you could read the Fox News source and see how they present it, read the CNN source, and read the Hill source. So obviously, you probably don't have time to do that with every news story, but it's just a good way of thinking about things, that there are different ways a story can be presented, and just keep in mind that you might be getting a bit of a biased perspective on something. So I hope this was helpful. Be careful of fake news. Think critically about all the information you find online. Be aware of clickbait, which is... Actually, there was a good example of it back here, actually, on the Snopes website. Let me see if I can find it. Clickbait is any type of ad or sponsored content that's trying to get you to click on it. So this maybe could be considered an example. Worst habit for memory loss. You might be curious about that and tempted to tap on it. Other common examples of clickbait would be articles saying things about health, like lose 20 pounds overnight, or use this cream to take 20 years off your life, to make yourself look 20 years younger. So any sort of sensational headline that evokes a strong emotion in you, be very cautious of those, and just take a minute before you make any choices based on that information. All right, thank you for watching. Have a great day.